hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
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 This is the Outdoor Rules Podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is the last episode of the Norway Tetralogy.
Thank God.
No, these have been good. I think. I don't know. I don't listen to them after I edit them, GT. I'm tired of them by the time I get that done. So we're back. We're stateside, obviously. Actually, we've been home for a while, but GT's here. Say hi, GT.
Hi.
And Poppy's on the phone.
Hi, from Pennsylvania.
Yep. And then Caitlin's joining us today too. I got two things I want to talk to Caitlin about today, but we'll talk about Norway and then we'll sort of get into what's coming next on the podcast. So anyway, yeah, guys, we're back home. I mean, I think there's probably consensus. It was a good trip, right?
It was a fantastic trip.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. It was a great trip.
And you know where we kind of left off the last episode before this one, we heard from Neil and Nate and you, GT, were on that episode, and then we also heard from Jacob, one of the guides at Camp Halibut, and I'll probably say it again, but I really appreciated those guides, and particularly I appreciated Jacob for being willing to come on to the podcast. It's I don't speak any other languages. Caitlin speaks Spanish, but Caitlin, can you imagine going on a podcast, like on a Spanish-speaking podcast?
No, because I don't speak Spanish that great.
Yeah, you say that, but but I really appreciate that Jacob was willing to come on and did a great job, and I liked how he kind of laid some things out about how the season goes there at Camp Halibut, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, later in terms of like what we do if we ever had a chance to go back, but I don't know, kind of starting through the trip chronologically, I want to sort of talk a little bit about how we got there and what that was like and what we might do different. But obviously we did an episode from Iceland. Dad, what would be like one thing that stood out about Iceland for you? What was something you really liked there?
Well, I think my favorite thing was when we went out to the Puffin Island.
Yeah, the Westman Islands.
Yeah, that whole day. The ferry ride out, actually going to see the Puffins, that island. That's one place. If I went back to Iceland, I think I'd want to spend a little more time. I know there's I think it's a beluga whale place right there on the island.
Yeah, there is some kind of like almost an aquarium or
I think it's like a rehabilitation center or something for belugas. They
right.
Rescue them. And stuff.
Yeah, that would have been cool to see. It was closed till we got back to town that day, so we didn't get to check it out.
They call it a sanctuary, I think.
Yeah,
right.
It's just the island, things on the island.
Yeah.
I get a hot dog too.
You'd get a hot dog?
Nope. I didn't.
GT's not a hot dog guy.
No, not my thing.
GT, what about you? What jumped out about Iceland?
It's actually the same thing. I think the day on the island was really awesome. I also liked seeing where the tectonic plates split and hiking through there and so forth was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if somebody said they had a full day, they were going to be in Reykjavik, what should they do? If they were there at the right time of year, I'd be like, go take the ferry, go to the island, see the Puffins, hang out there for the day, come back. I think what probably was the most surprising thing about Iceland to me was that Robert said hiking around the tectonic plates was his favorite thing.
Yeah.
But he has also talked about the secret lagoon.
Yeah.
A lot.
At various times it changes because he's talked about the secret lagoon a lot since he's been home.
Right.
You know what I don't need to go back and do again?
What?
Is look at geysers. Geysers are really boring.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to poke fun at Iceland, but I definitely coming from Yellowstone and haven't seen all the thermal features there. And I know, I mean, we saw one thermal area, there's some other cool stuff, but based on the little bit of what I saw, like I'd say if you wanted to do that kind of stuff, go see thermal features in Yellowstone.
If you were going to do a trip back and could only go to Norway or Iceland, which would you go to?
Well, I've actually kind of been thinking about that. Like, here's what I wouldn't do again. Like, I wouldn't do next time. I wouldn't try to do both in one trip.
Right.
If I had to pick, I guess I would say Norway. But I also don't really feel like we gave Iceland a fair shake.
That's true.
I mean, we showed up jet lagged, right? Early in the morning, had a day where you didn't really feel like doing anything, but, tried to stay up not until it got dark, because it didn't. But, and then we had 2 full days, but even that, you were kind of recovering. And then by the end of the second day, you're thinking about waking up the next morning and travel again.
Right.
So, I think if I were going to do another trip, if I was going to go to Iceland, I'd go to Iceland. I'd spend a week in Iceland. Dad, you said you'd like to rent a camper van, right?
Right. I agree with both you guys and what you were saying there. I enjoyed Norway much more than I did Iceland, but I think that was because we saw a small part of Iceland when it was full of tourists. And I have this thing that when I go somewhere and it's tough finding a parking place, I don't usually like it. And
yeah.
At some of the places we went to, the waterfall, the geyser, So yeah, I'd be interested in going to Iceland again, but like you had indicated, I'd rent one of those little motorhomes, I think, and spend a week there at least to see the parts of Iceland that we didn't see.
Yeah, and we had a listener who contacts us, and he talked about being in Iceland. He really likes Iceland, and the food at the farmhouse rentals. Apparently, there's kind of like a whole system there of places to stay and eat that we sort of missed.
Yeah. And we drove by a few places that you could tell that's what they were.
Right. And so shout out to Chuck for that tip, because I think it's a good one. I don't know that I'd necessarily want to rent a camper van or an RV, but going around and hitting little actual bed and breakfast where there was some food involved and it was a little more local.
And on the drive to the island, when we were driving to the ferry, I remember there was one spot where there was a house, but then there were also a couple little cabins, and it's right up against a mountain. And,
right.
There were some really beautiful spots like that.
Yeah. And, again, I don't mean to pick on anything in particular, but like, I wouldn't need to spend a lot of time in Reykjavik.
Nah.
It's kind of a cool city. It's worth seeing for, a day or half a day. But it's not like, it's not like Oslo. Lots of stuff downtown, walking friendly, easy to get around.
Right.
So.
Right. It was much busier than Oslo, I think, because of one of the things you said in the past. There was a lot more cars in Reykjavik than in Oslo.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that before, but yeah, there were. I mean, I thought about how few cars there were in Oslo, but that is one of the differences for sure, is that more cars.
And there were a lot of streets in Reykjavik that weren't really made for cars, I think, at least ones we were on.
So then, kind of moving on, everything on the trip was so much fun, but it was nice that you could get from Reykjavik to Oslo kind of painlessly. I mean, just a few hours, I think 2 hours in terms of time difference, and like a 2.5 hour flight, to Oslo. That was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And then I know we kind of talked about it, but Dad, I thought I was blown away actually when we got into Oslo. Your knowledge of Oslo was like encyclopedic. How did you do that?
I don't know. It's just you said look for stuff in Oslo, so I did that.
Yeah, you asked me what you could work on planning about a month before the trip, and I said, well, nobody's really thinking that hard about Oslo yet. Why don't you do that?
Yeah, how did you memorize the entire road
I
system?
don't know. He had a street map in his head. We're all fighting about how we get to the Airbnb from the train station when we got there, and Dad's getting mad at me because he's like, "It's over here. It's right there."
Nobody listened to me. You remember.
Well, I mean, forgive my caution about you knowing where you're going in a city that you've never been in before.
But he was right.
Oh, he was 100% right.
Yeah.
I was trying to follow my phone, and he was following the directions in his head. And they were both definitely taking us to the same place, but they were doing it like by different blocks,
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and that was maybe one of the tougher moments in the trip was we got into Oslo, and then our bags were delayed by 2 hours. We stood there, and that put us in rush hour, and then
I had the hangries.
GT had we learned.
Yeah, you got to carry around like toddler snacks for GT, maybe.
I learned on this trip,
pouch.
GT.
And
definitely.
Robert.
Yeah, Robert gets hangry too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you don't feed them all day.
I'm kind of amazed it took you this long to learn that.
Yeah, well, I know it now. But no, I don't. I almost same question, but we spent that time in Oslo really a lot of museums.
Yeah.
Right. What was your favorite of the museums we visited?
I really liked the Arctic Exploration Museum. I thought that was a perspective on that type of exploration I'd never heard before.
Right. What I thought there was like, oh, we're going to an Arctic Exploration Museum. Like how, like this is like a very specific thing. Like how interesting could this really be?
Yeah, boats, ice, cold.
Got it.
Guess what? They get stuck.
Some of them freeze to death sometimes. Yeah, but no, I like that one too. Dad, what about you?
I like that one, but I'm going to call it the group. I like that group. I mean, it was really nice that you had 3 museums grouped together right there. The Fram Museum, which was the Arctic Exploration, the Norway Maritime Museum, and the Kon-Tiki Museum.
See, I couldn't have remembered any of those names.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to all 3.
What was the Kon-Tiki Museum? I don't remember hearing about that one.
Dad, do you want to tackle that?
Well, yeah, Kon-Tiki was Thor. I get his name mixed up. Thor Heyerdahl or something like that. He built a raft and went from, I believe, Peru to the Fiji Island, something like that, to prove that that's how he thinks that they were inhabited.
Okay.
They did it in a balsa wood raft, and they actually in the museum they had I assume it's it's not the raft, but it's an exact replica of the raft. So it's kind of neat.
Kon-Tiki, like it's an interesting story, but that was actually one where I maybe felt a little bit like, yeah, okay, I'm in here 5 minutes, I get it.
Yeah.
But what did the raft look like?
It looked like Gilligan's Island, like what the professor made on Gilligan's Island to try to get off.
Like the one from Moana, or
yeah. Well, like with a thatched
Yeah.
roof cabin and outriggers and
Just lashed together. I don't know what the wood. It was balsa wood and something else. I don't know.
It was balsa wood. Yeah, the main part of it was made up of balsa wood logs.
Yeah.
And then they made another one later, right, out of reeds or out of some other material from some other place. But it was, like Dad's saying, it was aimed at proving that ancient peoples could have moved much farther around the globe than we gave them credit for.
Sounds like an outdoor rules adventure.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be maybe an outdoor rules challenge. We'll see if Matt and Mark can build a raft and get it across Kawaneski Lake.
Yeah,
I bet they can.
I was thinking more like the bay from out on
the
coast.
right. From the Bay Bridge Tunnel to Cape Charles.
Yeah.
There's no way that they would manage that. It might float that long, but not that they could steer it.
Yeah. They can't get a motorized boat to run that long.
One other museum, I really enjoyed the Natural History Museum also. I thought
that was a good museum.
I agree. I thought that one was good too. I just thought Oslo was a beautiful city.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Easy to get around in.
It really makes me want to go to some beautiful cities and countries I've never been. And just in fact, I really one of my favorite things about the trip was that we had that combination of natural outdoors, just hiking, doing some fishing, and some city life experiences. I kind of like that mix of exposure
right
on a trip.
And then from there we went to Tromsø, and I mean, I
learned how to Norwegian leg wrestle.
Well, we didn't. Some of the participants of the trip did. They didn't learn how to do it well.
With native Norwegians?
Yeah. There were a few funny stories. Nate, Neil, and Zach did not know each other before we all met up in Tromsø, and they very quickly bonded. And they had an evening where they did. They had some interesting experiences.
That'd be an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, none of it X-rated or anything like that, but they partook of the nightlife.
It did involve some woman beating Nate in leg wrestling at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No, it was Nate. Yeah. I'm going to have to call Nate and see if his wife knows about the leg wrestling story to see if I have to edit this out.
I was thinking afterwards, I wish he would have showed me exactly what they were talking about. I thought I remembered he said he got into 3 matches, 2 with men, and then a woman even beat him.
Well, I think it was the boyfriend of this couple was beating him at leg wrestling, and by Nate's telling, felt bad for him and said, "Here, leg wrestle my girlfriend," and then she beat him too.
I think he kept saying, "I ended up on my back. I didn't know how I got there."
But I was really struck by Tromsø. Tromsø was maybe one of the surprises of the trip. I mean, I knew it was big. I knew what the population was.
Right.
But it was really nice. I don't know if modern city is the right way to say it, but
yeah, it was just, again, a nice walkable city. And what was it? Population like 70,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like a nice downtown, and people were out and about, and I don't know, it was a cool place.
Tim, did you say walkable?
Yes.
Oh. How'd you get back from the ice cream?
He hasn't let go of this yet.
It's also cabable, which I like that in the city.
We walked down the hill to the city.
And then
we walked downhill to the ice cream and then took a cab back up.
That's right.
And I think I walked back up.
Well, I mean, you should have thought about that.
Yeah. Whose choice was that?
That's right. That's one of the things one of my bad choices I made on the trip. Not waiting to go with a cab.
Yeah. Tromsø, I would actually really love to go there in the winter. If you wanted to go on a trip to see the Northern Lights somewhere, I bet that it would be a lot of fun to go there, see the Northern Lights, do some dog sledding kind of stuff. If you like Nordic skiing, there's a ton of Nordic skiing there.
Oh yeah, you're a big Nordic.
Yeah, I'm a huge. Me in endurance sports. Shut up, Tim. No, but I really like that city, and it's supposed to be very lively in the winter. Like, it's supposed to be a place a lot of people go for those reasons. So. Yeah. And it's, again, easy place to get to from Oslo.
Right.
The other thing about Tromsø that I thought would be, if you were going to Norway and had a lot of time to spend there, it would be a lot of fun to get there by boat. Like to take
boats up along
a ferry or a cruise ship, go from, like, you could go from Oslo to Bergen on the railroad, which is a really classic scenic railroad trip.
Right.
Then get on a ferry or a ship in Bergen and go all the way up the coast of Norway and end up in Tromsø.
Right.
That would be kind of a cool.
That would be a nice cruise.
Yeah.
To get to those towns and stuff.
Right. But I really like Tromsø. That was one place I would say I wish that maybe we had a little more time to spend.
Right.
Not that there were really days to waste in the trip, but yeah, I really liked it.
But if you break each day down into 3 8-hour fully sunlit days,
that's true.
Then you can get a lot of days.
Yeah, it's just inconvenient. You have to sleep when it's always light.
Yeah.
Because you don't ever really sleep all that well either.
No.
What do you think the average sleep you guys had was?
4 to 5 hours a night or something.
And then even less on when you were fishing?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that fishing stuff was...
Yeah, we didn't go to bed till midnight to 2 a.m. Most nights, it seemed like.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so it was. It was probably 5 or 6 hours for me.
Yeah.
At the most, and I'm like an 8-hour guy, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it was tough on me. That I'm used to getting more sleep than that, and the other thing is being up as late as it was because it being light all the time and the way the fishing was. I was used to getting up early, and I think probably I was the first one up most mornings. Or you and me, Tim, especially in Oslo, we'd go out in the morning and go touring looking for donuts or whatever.
Cinnamon rolls and coffee.
Cinnamon rolls. There you go. Yeah.
And real coffee.
So
in a big cup.
In a big cup.
Dang it.
But there were nights I went to bed and got up after I was there for a while, and you guys were still playing cards. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing you got to say about Nate Weesey is, man, that guy can operate on a minimal amount of sleep.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I've known a few people like that in my life, and they say, oh, you know, I sleep like 4 hours a night, and you go, then you can't do that, but they do.
Yeah.
Literally.
Nate sure seems to. Every time I've been around Nate, he's like that. He's just Energizer Bunny.
Right.
And obviously from Tromsø, then we went fishing, and the last 2 episodes were all about fishing. You know, we don't need to get into the fishing itself because we've really done that. What I wanted to ask you guys was, you know, it's a big world, and part of what traveling shows you is just how many experiences there are out there to have. And so it's a little hard to ask a question like, well, would you go back? I mean, and I don't necessarily mean from a like, would you choose going back there over maybe some other experience? But I mean, based on the experience you had, would you go back? Like, you know, if it was easy to go back, somebody you knew really wanted to go back, would you go back?
I would definitely go back to Norway.
Yeah.
I'm not as interested in going back to Iceland. But if you look at me, at my history, I'm not good at doing the same vacations.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I mean. Like, try to set that aside. Would you go back to Sorøya to fish?
Yeah. Maybe with a fly rod in the fall.
We will talk about that because that is an interesting piece. Dad, what about you?
Well, I would say it this way. I wouldn't plan to go back there again. But if someone said to me, hey, I'm going back there, you want to go along? I'd say yes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe another way to ask the question would be like, if you woke up and you were on Sorøya Island in Norway and somebody said, get up, we're going halibut fishing, would you be disappointed?
No. And in fact, one of my disappointments, I actually wish I fished more.
Yeah.
While I was there. I kind of kept fighting the end of the day, like, we got to get back. I got to make some dinner. We got to do this. We got to get
Yeah,
these
you really
things
do
done.
have to kind of let that go.
You just got to let it go.
Right.
And if that would have been more fun. Just to relax about it and not think about when you're trying to go home.
Right. Dad, same question. Would you be disappointed if you found yourself there?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I really loved it there.
And
I mean, you did an excellent job organizing everything and finding that place, and I thought it was a first class place. There were great boats, great guides.
Yeah.
And like I heard earlier, the guides. I've never been anywhere that anybody wanted to fish. Like guides would talk about, you know, they're usually an 8-hour guide. These guys didn't want to quit fishing; they wanted to keep going. So.
I'm going to be fishing for 7 days start this week with guides.
Yeah.
Those poor guides are going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them an earful about how great the guides were.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this on a future podcast when you're back, but what are you about to leave for, GT?
I'm going up to Alaska. Trout, steelhead fishing.
And salmon?
There'll be some salmon, but no kings and things like that. But it'll be I don't know what we'll get into.
I can't wait to sit down and talk about that trip.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But yeah, I mean, and I do think, you know, one thing maybe if somebody that's listening is thinking about going, I mean, the experience we had in Norway, it's not the Alaska lodge luxury kind of thing. I mean, you know, you're there at the lodge on your own. They are there to take you fishing. Otherwise, they're not there to take care of you, really. You know what I mean? It's you buy your own food, you cook your own meals. You know, it's not somebody's not coming around every day to ask you, you know,
nobody
if you
opening
need
up
anything.
the wine for me, you know, pouring me a glass of Cabernet.
Yeah.
You know,
Another thing to know is you can't even buy wine on that island. You
Right.
can only buy like some kind of low alcohol content beer, no
Right.
liquor or wine.
right?
But I mean, if you're going somewhere to fish, you know, if your goal is to fish, it is a heck of a place.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know, Dad. If you were gonna go back, and you could sort of pick when you were gonna go and what you were gonna do and where you were gonna focus your time while you're there, what would you do? Like, would
No,
you do
first-
something different?
Yeah, I'd go sometime when there was a little darkness.
That's not a bad thought.
Yeah,
Although there's a
It's
lot of
pretty
their
cool.
season where it doesn't get dark. So
Yeah, but I listening to them, I think the spring or fall. They were saying fall they catch a large halibut again, and the spring they catch a large halibut. I don't know. I was interested in catching big cod too, which I never caught anything that was big. I caught small cod and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things that was hard to judge by is I think that everywhere on this trip, I'm talking about Iceland, Oslo, Tromsø, and here, they were having record warm temperatures.
yeah,
And I wonder if it would be different. You know what I mean? If it wasn't, or if it would have been more like what the average temperature is. So I think I would have enjoyed it to be a little bit cooler or colder. So
yeah. I mean,
don't know. As you can probably tell, I'd have a tough time picking. I could go for big cod. I could go for big halibut, but I don't know if I'd be tough enough anymore to take it in March when they fish. It should be really cold then.
man, that's got to be something to be there in March.
right.
That would be a whole different experience.
Nah, that wouldn't be for me. That'd be a lot of time at the rail of the boat. I have a feeling.
Yeah. You know, Jacob said the first week after the full moon, right, in May,
Yep.
I think, you know, that's when I would go. If I were to get the chance to go back there and it was just to go for me and, you know, what I wanted to do, I think I would go and focus on catching a big halibut, you know, go hunt for a giant, spend a week hunting for a giant. That's kind of,
But if you went in the fall, you could get the big halibut, and more of the halibut move into more shallow water.
yeah, well, that would be tempting too.
And so you could go after them a couple different ways.
I would. I guess you're right. I would definitely pick a time when I could focus on big halibut,
Yeah.
and that would, you know, I felt like it was great that we went out to and had the experience of cod and the bigger coalfish and the ling and, you know, some of that other stuff. I
Right.
mean, I didn't catch a wolffish on the trip.
I did.
I know you did. You caught the nicest wolffish of the
Yeah.
trip on the first day.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would try to catch one of those if I went back. But I think you know, the cod and stuff. I mean, Dad, it would be interesting to go catch a really big cod, but I would want a trip that focused.
I said that and was probably more focused on thinking about that. That was after I caught the halibut, the big halibut. So,
Yeah.
but you know, I think it's a different kind of mindset. We hunt, you know, we'll go out in the mountains and for days at a time and hunt for elk or hunt for whitetails. You know, to me, then this fishing would be that type of fishing.
Yeah.
You're going after one large, or you know, maybe a couple large or whatever.
It's like Nate said, it's more like musky fishing
Right.
in that way. Like go fish for 12 hours for one bite, but that bite might be a
Right.
300-pounder.
Right.
Yep.
Would you do the same thing where you did kind of more sightseeing first and then fishing or would you do the opposite? And I know some of that was trying to get fish home, but if you weren't worried about, let's just say you weren't allowed to bring fish home.
Okay, good.
There has been too much of this podcast without me and GT arguing about something, so I'm glad you segued us into this, Caitlin.
But where were you going with that? Where were we gonna?
Well, let's just start with you can't bring fish home.
Right.
Okay, that's the premise.
Yeah, because I feel like some of this was like you were enjoying all this other stuff, but you also had in the back of your head the fishing, which is probably what everybody was most excited about at the end of the trip. Would you do it the same way, or is there some reason you would want to do the fishing on the front end and then the more leisurely stuff after?
I'd split it. I'd have a stop on the way out where you'd spend 3 days, so you can really get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Go fish for a week and then spend 3 days in one other location on the way home, so that it wasn't like that. The trip home, with the 2 overnights where you're like it just seemed like it just ate up hours and days.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you got to remember that you're going to have an 8-hour time change getting there. So I think it would be really hard. And I guess some of the guys did it, but it would have been harder on me for sure had we just gone straight to Norway and gone fishing.
Right.
That would have been tough in terms of blowing your clock out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that approach, like GT said. I mean, kind of less time before fishing because you're anxious to do that, but then it would have been nice to have more time after fishing. So,
yeah. And then you wouldn't be walking around Oslo and places like that, and everybody's looking at everybody with a fishing rod in their hand, going, wonder what they're catching.
Having fishing rod envy.
Fishing rod envy, exactly.
Right.
They would still be there. It wouldn't matter. But.
All right,
I was looking out the window of the Maritime Museum, watching the guy fishing right below us.
Yeah, with the rules, I don't think it would matter what end of the trip it was on. If they weren't fishing and somebody else was fishing, they want to know what's going on.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I think if I were doing it, the way I'd do the trip again, if I did it, is I'd fly Chicago to Denmark, Copenhagen, stay there, fly from there to Tromsø, and then come back through Finland,
through Helsinki,
and hang out in Helsinki for a few days. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, and we got to get to the fish, but I from a travel standpoint, the one thing I know that I would do different on this trip is I would fly to Tromsø, because you got to fly to Tromsø one way or the other for this,
right,
unless you're going to take a long drive, which I wouldn't mind driving the Atlantic Highway up the coast of Norway. Either we saw some of it from the air, and I've seen a lot of pictures. It's supposed to be amazing. But I would rent a car in Tromsø and drive the 6 hours to Sorøya.
Yeah.
You drive to Hammerfest and then take the ferry.
Yeah.
I think it's Hammerfest to Sorøya. That's what I would do.
I think that would be a good way to do it.
Because, it feels like with the flights and everything, you kind of, you spend hours there kind of putzing around anyway till you get on a plane, and then it's a short flight. You kind of lose a lot of time, and it's kind of inconvenient from the lodge. Not inconvenient, but
my general rule on travel has always been anything less than 6 hour drive, I'm not flying.
Yeah. It's just,
Did I say that the right way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's like going to Denver, I mean, that was the thing. It was rough coming home because we drove home from Denver in a giant thunderstorm, but you don't really lose any time.
Right.
Because you got to do all the transfers and all that other stuff anyway. So,
right.
And then you'd fly to Albuquerque probably and have an hour to drive home anyway.
Right.
But you mentioned how good the weather was. I don't know that. I think you could go back there 10 times at the same time of year and not get a week of weather that nice. I don't know that was a good thing for the fishing necessarily.
Right.
Because it seemed like the fishing was the best when the weather was the worst while we were there.
Yes.
But, if you were there and you did have big weather and you wanted other stuff to do, that approach would also give you a rental car, you could also run back and forth to any of the grocery stores that are on the island and other stuff without kind of having to try to coordinate that with the lodge. It kind of would have been nice to have a car there, I think.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
So, Caitlin, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The next time that your husband suggests we go on a week-long or 2-week-long fishing adventure somewhere in the world, are you going to stay home?
Probably not.
How did it feel being home and hearing the stories and so forth?
Conflicted, because I was definitely jealous, like sitting in my cubicle at work and getting pictures of puffins and, the scenic views in every place you were at. But I felt good about my decision to stay back. Emmett's a little too young, I think, for the fishing portion of that trip.
Yeah.
He's too young.
Robert was the youngest person ever to do that fishing trip, I heard.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Right.
And I didn't really want to spend the money on, a trip that Emmett would have been miserable on. And
probably won't remember.
And wouldn't remember. And I remember being a kid and enjoying going on adventures with just you, where we had time on our own and traveling with Mom to California. And Mike and I have talked about that before, but I think that's kind of important, too, to have. It doesn't always have to be everybody.
Yeah, it's some of the more memorable trips.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whether you're at home one-on-one with them for a longer period of time than is normal, or whether you're traveling with them one-on-one,
right.
It is.
I definitely got some rewarding days just being with Emmett at home for a couple weeks, because that was vastly different. But I felt like, I saw him grow up in that time frame and find a little more confidence in himself apart from his older brother, which he doesn't know anything life without his older brother. So
right. Okay, so now we got to get back. We got to get back to the fish. GT. What did it cost you to get your fish home?
Well, let me tell you, Mike. We brought 80 pounds of fish home from Norway, right?
Okay.
My extra baggage cost for doing that was $385. Your baggage cost was $175. We had to buy the 2 coolers. Those were $150.
Oh, those don't count.
We wouldn't have bought the coolers if we weren't doing that. I had a little cart for my bag because I had 3 suitcases to carry, and I couldn't hold 3 of them. And that was $40. We did spend an extra night in an Airbnb for $350. It was it was the best Airbnb we stayed in, actually, back in not in Reykjavik, but in Iceland. And then we had the $100 cab fare to get there. Not counting the meals, the added cinnamon rolls, the added money spent at duty free while sitting around in airports, the 12 hours of lost sleep spent cleaning the fish.
Oh, that was a lot
at midnight every night.
Yep.
Or the additional lost time at work, which we won't count any of those things. The total cost was $1,200. That's $15 per pound.
For halibut, not bad.
I stuck with my original premise. I would be happy to invest that money at Whole Foods or with an Alaska Fish Company.
Wait a second.
Yeah, exactly. This is GT waffling right here. What did he say?
I appreciate that point, but I'm pretty sure the first night we ate halibut here at home, you made some comment like, "I'm really glad we brought this fish home."
Well, I was then. But days have gone by since I've had some. You haven't made me any halibut in days.
I made you walleye.
You did make me walleye. That was good, too.
So
that's not bad. How much, if you walked into Whole Foods, how much would halibut cost?
It's, $25 a pound.
Yeah.
Maybe 29 if you can get it, and you can't get it most of the time of the year.
This is the whole deer hunting. I mean, this is the whole hunting argument. If you're hunting for the price per pound of the meat, go to the grocery store and buy beef. Economically, it doesn't work out.
No,
it's about experience.
It is. So it was a fun adventure because we argued about it for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. And I mean, we argued about it for 4 months total.
Right.
Probably longer than that.
Yeah, probably was longer than that.
Yeah.
Dad, were you happy with hauling fish home, or what were your thoughts on it?
Yes, I could go either way. I don't think I'd do it again. We ended up with a bunch of different kinds of fish, which isn't bad, but I don't know if I was going and thinking to do that. It'd be more like when we go fishing here, we basically throw everything back. You know what I mean? So I'd be happy doing that again too, rather than going through the trouble of dragging all that to the airport and trying to get a place in the way back so we could stick it in the freezer. But I could do it again that way. So I'm not really.
Yeah. I'm somewhere in the middle. It's really funny because when I got back, I was like, if I did this again, I wouldn't bring fish home.
Really?
Yes.
I've never heard you say that.
I know.
All these arguments.
And then we had the halibut meal, and GT was like, this was a great, like, I'm so glad we brought the fish home. And where I've really landed is in the middle, because there is one little story in this, which is that we got to Denver, right? So we left Reykjavik on the last day of the trip, flew into Denver, and got to the customs area, and all of our bags came out except the 2 coolers of fish. Now, GT and I both have to work the next day. This is not like, we'll just go get a hotel and our bags will catch up here. The bags don't come out, and I'm just like, this is the nightmare. There's coolers with fish somewhere, and after tomorrow, I probably don't ever want to see that cooler again.
Right.
And lo and behold, GT went and asked somebody, and she was like, they probably came out over at the oversized baggage. And it was like, well, that doesn't sound right because they've not done that anywhere else. But
right. That's what happened.
Luckily, they were there. But I had like 15 minutes of just panic and dread.
You had dread, and I was laughing because I thought this is going to just make this story so great. We do all of this.
Now get the fish in the end.
So and it all rots in the back of it.
This is where you plug the coolers that you use, though, right?
Well, yeah, and I did, where I really landed on this was if I were doing the exact same thing over again and 3 of us were going from here, what I would say to the other folks going would be, let's bring 1 cooler of fish home.
Right.
Because what
Michael carry it.
Well, I probably would. What Dad and Robert and I each did, and I think we mentioned this before, we bought, I don't know what size they are, Samsonite, Costco, hard-sided luggage. And then we bought Arctic brand 40 can soft side coolers. And you could put the soft side cooler inside your luggage. And to go there, we filled it, with stuff. And then to come home, obviously, we only ended up, I think, having to take 1 out, right?
Right.
So, I think 3 people could manage to get 1 cooler home at a cost of $175 total. Kind of play towards what Dad is saying, which is you would just focus on getting the amount of halibut you could carry, right? Probably not worrying about most of the other fish. I mean, maybe you want to bring some plaice or some wolffish or something. And then, then you'd have fish to share when you got back, but you wouldn't have like a maximum weight.
Right. That would, that'd be a good compromise.
That's what I would, in all seriousness, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
It would bug me to have done all that trip and come back here and not, have fish meals with Caitlin and Emmett, who won't eat the fish. But
unless I catch some really good salmon, I'm probably not going to bring any fish home from Alaska.
Right. But Alaska's easier too. Go ahead.
Thinking back over it, I think probably bringing the fish home caused the most stress, if you want to call it. Also, the most enjoyable bickering back and forth with this. But thinking from the beginning, cleaning the fish and then making sure that we got somewhere where we had something to put the fish in the freezer on the way home, and just all the other stuff that we've talked about, getting it through the airport and everything. So probably that was the thing that caused the most stress in this trip. So thinking about it, maybe it'd be much easier just to forget it. So,
well, I mean, I don't think anybody had any illusions going into the trip. Like it wouldn't be easier to not bring fish home.
You're right.
it's really just a matter of, in the end, is it worth it? And I think for me, there's a degree to which it's worth it, and I would do it again, but I wouldn't do it again sort of the full bore way that we did it. And, you kind of alluded to it, and Dad, you just mentioned it. The worst day of the trip was coming back into Oslo. And we were very fortunate because the owners of the Airbnb were very kind, and they provided us some extra freezer space, and we could freeze all the fish for everybody. And Zach was still with us at the time. So it was like 4 coolers of fish between the freezer and the Airbnb and some space the owners let us use. But we stayed out near the airport, and we weren't really close to anything, and we hadn't rented a car because we weren't really there long enough to make that worthwhile. But then we really just ended up sitting around, and that one I would say wasn't. That was the day of the trip I really could have done without, and I would be surprised if anybody that was there for that disagreed.
I agree.
Now, I would say on the flip side of that, we went from that night in Oslo to a night back in Reykjavik, where we also stayed out near the airport in an Airbnb that I also picked because I asked the owners if it had a full-size freezer, and they said it did. And that ended up being a gem.
It was really a nice place, nice Airbnb.
And one of my favorite meals of the trip, and, kind of discovered a place I'd like to go back to if I do go to Iceland.
Yeah.
So
Keflavik?
Keflavik,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a cool little town.
Yeah, and specifically the hotel Keflavik where we had dinner.
Yeah.
We had a really nice dinner, really great service, and the hotel looked like kind of a really cool
it was very nice
place to stay. I'm sure it's expensive, but that's one of those where if I was traveling through there and had a night, I would jump at the chance to stay there.
Yeah.
But the fish added complexity on the back end of the trip. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
So isn't the last thing you wanted to talk about tonight is where Caitlin wants to go on the next trip?
I would actually love to talk about that. The last technical things about it is, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't need to cover that. I did want to mention we didn't get your fish, Tim, into the freezer after we left Oslo. So that Arctic 40 kept that fish frozen for 40 hours. That was how long. I did the calculation from when we left the Airbnb until we got home here, and it was 40 hours, and that fish was absolutely fine.
And we'd like to thank Arctic, our sponsor.
Arctic, the choice of Norwegian fishermen. Now, the choice of American fishermen going to Norway.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with that. That element of it worked really well.
Yeah.
And in all seriousness, if you did it the way we did it, $175, we would have gotten a cooler home.
Yeah.
Would have been pretty easy to do it that way. And I think that would have been really good value for for what we got. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad, I guess, wrapping up the trip, what's one big takeaway for you, favorite moment, thing you learned, something you loved? One thing.
One thing. Well, it would be the fishing, I guess. I enjoyed everything. I grumble a little bit about Iceland, but I enjoyed Iceland. I enjoyed Oslo. I enjoyed Tromsø. One of the things I wish we would have got to the aquarium at Tromsø, but other than that, it's something to go if you go back. But the fishing would be the highlight.
Yeah. GT?
Just the realization that I want to make as many of these kinds of experiences as I can with as much of my family as I can.
Yeah.
I want to look for as many opportunities to do this as we all can while we all have time and health and everything on our side, And so.
Yeah, I feel so good about, having Robert do this trip with you guys. It's going to be a lifetime of memories for him for sure. I so much appreciated Zach and Nate, and particularly Emmy, Nate's daughter Emerson, who, her and Robert just just palled up and spent a lot of time together. And I think it helped, make some of the boring time fishing more bearable for both of them.
Yeah.
And Neil, I got to know Neil a lot better on the trip too. And I really enjoyed Neil quite a bit. So I it was just such an experience about people. And I agree with that. I mean, obviously the fishing, but there's a lot of fishing in the world, but there's not a lot of great people to spend time with, and I really thought it was.
But when you put that all together, it really becomes magical.
Great fishing,
great fishing, great people, and really interesting places. That's cool.
And then I'll cheat since I'm the host, but my other one was watching Robert crank that redfish out of 1,000 feet of water after the disappointment of reeling one up that he thought was on the hook, and it being the fish had gotten off.
Yeah,
and then he was so disappointed, and immediately, like within 2 minutes, we hooked another fish, and he went right back to the rod.
Yeah.
It did not discourage him. It encouraged him to catch the next fish, and
that's Robert.
Very proud of him.
Yeah.
So, Caitlin, what's the next trip? What should we do? Well, I guess we already know. I mean, GT's going to Alaska tomorrow.
Yeah. We're going to Cabo.
We're going to Cabo. Yeah.
Yep.
That's going to be a lot of fun. The striped marlin fishing is supposed to be great when we're there. Outside of that, is there anything that jumps to mind for you? A thing you'd like to do, big fishing trip like this?
No, I don't have, I'd love to do a big fishing trip in a different country like this, but I don't have any destination in mind. If there's somewhere that I have a destination in mind to, get the boys to, it'd probably be somewhere in Ontario.
Oh,
I think. Just get them out on one of those experiences.
Yeah. That would be
maybe
fun.
in 2-3 more years when we'll see how into it Emmett gets. He likes fishing, but he just doesn't have the interest in focusing on it for that long.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell at 4,
Yeah.
They can either turn out to not have the patience to do it, or they can turn out like, Robert is, and there's nothing wrong with either of those things. Fishing's not for everybody, but
maybe a combination Disney Keys fishing trip is in the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's been on the list.
Neil's wife Amanda is from Brazil, and her dad peacock bass fishes down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it?
That'd be pretty sweet.
There you go. Maybe Brazil would be an option.
Yeah.
Poppy, you got any big fishing trip you're thinking of?
Probably somewhere in the Great Lakes.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of places I'd like to go in the Great Lakes, Lake St. Clair.
Yeah.
I have fished some on the Thousand Islands, but probably like to fish more there. But there's too many places in the United States and America that I'd like to go. I've only been to 25 states fishing, so I'd like to improve that.
Man, you got to get going.
Yeah.
I think a Door County trip would probably be a good one for the boys at their ages, because you can mix the fishing with lots of cool stuff.
Man, I was blown away by how good the smallmouth fishing was there in Green Bay when we were there. That was great. I'd go back to do that for sure. All right, the last thing I wanted to poke Caitlin about. Caitlin, what's coming up?
I've got an archery elk hunt coming up.
Yeah. Poppy, couple more weeks there until archery season starts, right? Early in October in Pennsylvania.
Yep. Coming up.
Your archery season's probably going to be short, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, because I'm planning to have a shoulder replaced. So
yeah,
that's I think the 21st of October.
That sort of really hinders archery, doesn't it? You can't pull a bow.
It generally makes climbing up in a tree hard too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tough decision on whether I wanted to do it in hunting season or fishing season.
See, this is where with a rule. When the rubber really hits the road and they really have to choose one because they need a shoulder replaced, this is when you can actually tell which thing is more important to them.
Right.
Turns out.
Would you choose the same thing?
I don't know. Probably. I'd probably take a year off of hunting over a year off of fishing. But what I would say about that is 5 years ago, especially 10 years ago, it would have been no question. I would have chosen hunting every time. So I think maybe because fishing's become more of a family activity right now at this point in our lives, I would be like, wouldn't want to give up the fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I think I have a month and a half before rifle season, and it's my left shoulder, so I have somewhere else to rest the rifle. So I hope I can hunt with a rifle. And
there you go. You'll get one in rifle season. No, and I brought it up in part because I'm hoping that the next episode will actually be a kind of hunting season preview. Caitlin will talk a little bit more about your archery elk hunt that's coming up. You've been shooting a ton, and it's a great hunt, same one you had last year. And then the other Outdoor Rule brothers, they've been starting to send trail cam pictures from Pennsylvania. So I know, especially Matt, I know is getting excited for archery season coming up. So getting to be that time of year, we've been all this fishing content, but the hunting season's coming back around. So
not for me.
Yep. Well, GT, we can't wait to hear how your Alaska trip goes. We'll definitely be back to talk about that.
All right.
All right. Anything else before we go?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for doing this. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you.
You too.
Hunting and fishing, the great outdoors, mixing history, laughter, love, and folklore, creating memories with family and friends. These are the trophies that matter in the end. Outdoor